Hi, my name is Maureen Stockline. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also a full-time firefighter. And I'm also one of the administrators for the wellness professionals in fire rescue. Just quickly about us, we came together, like I said, as the wellness professionals in fire rescue, as a think tank of credentialed professionals working in the fire service. Collaboratively, Annette and Megan Lautz and myself established the mission statement of connecting credentialed fire and rescue health professionals driven to optimize firefighter quality of life through meaningful collaboration. Our mission is to use our collective education and experience to empower the end user, including fire departments, firefighters, and future fire wellness professionals. A special thank you to the NSCA for always supporting the efforts of fire and rescue and for hosting us on their Zoom platform tonight. And also just a reminder, as a disclaimer, the views of the speakers represent their own opinions and not those of their employers or agencies. So with further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mandy.
Great to see everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Maureen. I'm excited to help moderate this session tonight. I'm the Tactical Program Manager for the public safety side of the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and I'm excited to help bring this session to you tonight. I do want to just share some friendly reminders on housekeeping notes and whatnot. First and foremost, we welcome your questions. We do have an opportunity for you to post those in the Q&A box, and that's visible by moving your cursor over the bottom of your screen and just looking for that, again, Q&A box. So please do post your questions there for our wonderful panel of experts tonight. I also want to make sure that, to remind you that this is a recorded session and it will be posted on your YouTube channel after this session concludes, and there'll also be a survey. So please do make sure that you remember to fill that out for us so that we can continue to learn exactly what you need, exactly what you want, and deliver that for you. We'll go ahead and introduce some of our panelists today. We have, and these will just be very casual introductions because quite frankly, if we were to give them the full introductions they need, we would be here for days. These are some of the most accomplished professionals in the field. They are phenomenal human beings. And let me tell you just a little bit about them real quick. So Annette, Matt, and Jim are career firefighters who are also credentialed experts in the field of firefighter health and wellness. Megan, John, Dina, Jeffrey, and Jake are civilians who work directly for fire departments in their areas of expertise. So we'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions now. So the first question, let's throw this over to Jim McDonald. From your perspective as a firefighter and a coach, if a department currently has a few resources or is lacking them altogether, what conversations might I bring to the table when speaking with admin and or union representatives to get a program going?
All right, so that's a good question. I think from a firefighter perspective, and also from a strength coach perspective, focusing on, obviously being a good firefighter first, getting through probation, and then letting them know like upfront that you're interested in helping with the program. That way they know that from the beginning. And then once you're through and you kind of proven yourself, if you're through probation, and then at that point you can start talking to them. So first and foremost, I think you need to have a plan, right? So you have to have a plan and a program that's ready to kind of present to the fire department and or the union. You need to spend time and understand the real needs of the department and how you would like to implement the quote perfect program. And you need to think of it, at least in my experience, that you don't have any resource obstacles. Like, what would you do? What would be your perfect program? I think that you should try and present it as a phased in approach or a step-by-step approach, because most places it's not going to be a reality to do everything at once. The second thing I would suggest is kind of know your audience, right? Who are you going to be talking with? Is your department progressive? Is it kind of an old school? What's the culture like? Do they support fitness and wellness? Knowing the audience is going to help you better decide what you can realistically ask for, and how to ask it appropriately, and to understand like a timeline that you may be looking at or want to do. The third thing I would suggest is to bring data to back up and support your why and what you're asking for. And there's so much data out there. So you can look it up online. You could reach out to one of the panelists here, but bring the data and the science, because it's very powerful and it's hard to dispute that. So kind of an example real quick is just, when you're presenting this, you can present the information today about the health and wellness program. Currently we don't have a formal program at the department, but the culture supports health and wellness. And I'm proposing that we start a program. I'd like to have a phased in approach and incorporate physical fitness, mental health, and annual medical screenings. I propose the holistic approach to hit all the areas that are statistically backed up by the NFPA that affect the fire community. And then I took it a step farther and I did all the research as I suggested. So I talked with a local rep fitness here in Colorado. They agreed to give us a discount for any equipment that we would need. I also talked with a local college, and they were willing to help us with the mental health aspect with the graduate program, and as well as the annual medical screening. So that's kind of my approach with the few times I've done this now with local departments. Just come, be prepared, and hopefully this gives you some insight on framework to get started.
Excellent, Jim. And it sounds like one of the things that you did a really great job of was paving the way for their success. So you painted a really strong vision of what the program could look like and the type of offerings that could be included, but you also made those strategic partnerships and collaborations possible for them too, by talking to the community, by getting them involved and opening up those doors for them. And I think that that's so critical, because these departments can be so busy with so many different priorities that anything that we can do to help pave the way for their success really does make a big difference. So let's go to another question. This one looks good for Jake Patton. Let's see, Jake, you are a civilian that coordinates a successful and long-standing program. Can you please elaborate on your best recommendations of what you'd include in a department program as they are getting rolling?
Sure. First of all, again, I'm very excited to be here tonight, so thank you for hosting me and having me. I think Jim did a great job of helping to segue into my answer. You need it all. You need the behavioral health component, the dietitian component, the return to work like duty, having to deal with some pregnancies, from the aspect of women during their pregnancy to the post-pregnancy and postpartum, even not letting them get caught in the weeds. Where am I? How am I going to get back to the field? I'm not what I used to be. As well as, the overall fitness program. And that includes standardizations, having a way to assess and track and trend. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to look at our firefighters. How are we going to be able to make them better firefighters, but also better people? All of that correlates to, reduction in injury or the risk of injury, but we all know that's going to happen in the final work. So it's really having that all-encompassing, one-stop shop where we have those multiple factions within it that we can work from with specialties. So I know us firsthand, we have the behavioral health component. We have 2 new doctors that have just signed on. We're really attacking the peer support team and getting more people trained up and educated, as force multipliers with that to help with our 2 docs. We're really revamping and looking to, work on our light duty process. From the moment a surgery happens, from the moment postpartum happens, or the day they get cleared from their doctor, we're getting them in, we're getting them trained up, trying to get them mentally ready as well as physically ready to get back to the field and do the job. The dietitian component, we're going to have a special dietitian hopefully coming over here shortly with us, who's going to be a rock star and speaks the language of the fire service. And that is Megan, hopefully. So we're going to try to build the team that, we're going to try to help give our firefighters all that we can. So I know that's Fairfax County. We're a big department with a big budget, a lot of capabilities, but it's very simple to do even with a small department. I I would say the biggest thing I did when I first came in 4.5, almost 5 years ago, we looked at our annual evaluation, our work performance for all of our incumbents, and they were getting gear, they'd be on air, they'd have to go through about 9 events that included, equipment carries, dummy drags, force entries, the works, basically job task performance stuff. And I saw we had a good percentage of people that couldn't put their bunker gear on. They had a hard time buttoning up their jacket, putting their pants on. We had some issues with some heart rates, pre and post event. And so I looked at it as we're doing a great job of the actual training process of this all, our field training, our recruit school, basic training staff, but I felt like our fitness was lacking a little. And so for us, our needs analysis really kicked in, and we looked at it as, okay, we need to revamp our fitness. What can we do from the WellFit side, the health and wellness side, fitness-wise, to really get our people back up to snuff, to help correlate to the training that they're getting? Because they were doing the job great. I know we could be, we'd be doing the job a lot better if we really looked at our fitness program. So for us, just like any size department, any size budget, is finding your strengths and weaknesses and work on those. Get the right people in place to really help provide the education, the knowledge, and then get those force multipliers. One of our biggest thing too right now is getting our peer fitness program up and running, and getting a multitude of firefighters involved. Right now we have about 30-ish, 33 coaches. Of those 30-ish, we have about 8 certified through TSAC. We hope to do more with a class this fall. We're going to keep plugging that in annually because, again, knowledge is strength, strength is knowledge, and the way we're going to work is not just the guy with the beard and tattoos, it's the civilian yelling at you. We're going to get some of the firefighters to actually work with their experiences with injuries and diet and on-the-job stuff to then help correlate with fitness. So it's going to spread like wildfire. You just got to be patient. You got to work with your victories, as our lovely battalion chief says, the small victories. Work with those and build from them.
Absolutely. And John, it sounds like you've done a really great job tuning into the culture and building trust and camaraderie with the firefighters. I think that is one element that we're going to see come up again and again with these speakers, with our panelists and experts, is that it's really important to just build that trust, build that camaraderie, and work hand in hand with the firefighters and with the community supporters and partners to really put together a holistic program. And just like you said, it takes some patience, but it's so worth it in the end when you're able to put together these robust programs. Just in side note, for those of you who are tuning in and aren't quite familiar with what TSAC stands for, that is Tactical Strength and Conditioning. And the NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association, provides an accredited certification in tactical strength and conditioning. And so we greatly appreciate you incorporating that into your program. I didn't want to put an infomercial on. I just wanted to make sure that we're clearing all the acronyms and making sure that we're all familiar with what we're discussing today. So let's go ahead and move to the next question. Megan, when you began working with a department, how do you identify what items exactly you need to implement within the department? Of course, we're going to hear different needs from the firefighters versus leadership versus what community stakeholders might think should be in those programs. So how do you balance all of that? How do you determine those needs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so to clarify, I'm Megan, I'm a dietitian. I'm a civilian. I have no firefighters in my family. I knew nothing about fire when I first started. I just kind of fell into a role and they said, you're going to work with public safety. And I was like, cool. So I think what was really important for me was to really understand who I was working with. I came from working with engineers at Northrop Grumman. Those are 2 different types of people. So I think what was really important for me was to first learn everything I possibly could about the fire department, what a volunteer is, what a firefighter is, what a paramedic is. The ambulances don't come from the hospital, they come from the fire station. Those kinds of things were really important for me to lay the groundwork before I could really get into the needs assessment, in my opinion. But once I kind of got that down, when you are thinking of the needs assessment or you're brought into a fire department, you don't really know a whole lot about it. There are several different groups that you want to make sure that you address when you start your assessment. So that includes your incumbents, which means your current firefighters, your captains, your lieutenants, the ones at the station who are running calls, the EMS supervisors, the battalion chiefs who are running calls in the car, the battalion chiefs who are sitting in the office, the recruits, And the recruit fitness instructors, if they have, a fitness instructor team or they have instructors just at the academy. You want to include risk management, and risk management could include a battalion chief, or it could, well, typically there's a battalion chief, but also from, the occupational side, possibly connected to the occupational medical center. If you have one on site, we have one on site. We're a larger department of about 2,400 firefighters, career and volunteer. So that also includes the doctors, that includes your nurses, those kinds of things. You don't want to forget about the union. And then you also don't want to forget about any concurring wellness programs. So if there is an internal wellness program and you're coming in as a wellness professional, it can get a little bit tricky. So you want to make sure that, everything's you're working together collaboratively. Now, once you have all those populations, that's a long list, right? Really, you're just trying to get to know them as a person. You're trying to understand, okay, what are the challenges that this specific population faces? The more you look into it, some of the biggest things are cardiovascular disease, cancer, mental health. Divorce rates are high, possibly because of the stress and potentially from PTSD. Maybe they're working a lot of overtime. So really starting to get to know people, you get to know their life, and therefore you get to know some of the barriers that they face, which you're going to then address, right? Workers' comp or risk management will often tell you what type of injuries that department might have. So usually it's back, shoulder, and knee are some of the top ones. What are some things that you can incorporate into either warm-ups, mobility sessions, stretching post-workout, those kinds of things. And then of course, seeing if there's any limiting protocols. So some, and John Hoffman can go into this in detail for sure. He's actually been able to change some protocols, whereas for me, I haven't quite got there yet. But if they can't take naps on duty, like short naps or something like that, how can you show, the evidence that that could actually potentially improve, their performance at work? Things like that. Are they able to work out on duty? So there's a lot of questions that start to come up, but I think it really starts with just starting to get to know the department and the people within it.
Very well said, Megan. I think that that's so important to, again, just understand the population you're working with as more than just a population, as humans, and get to know where they're at and what their interests are in and whatnot. Just like you said, and looking at the risk management data and the injury data can be really important, because if people are in pain, if you can help them get out of pain, we all know that that's a huge win. And that's a great way to start positive momentum in your program. And that might involve just starting with something as simple as mobility training and stretching, and incorporating little bits of that into a shift or into a training program. We want to build robust holistic health programs, but starting with that 5-minute stretch session can be a really positive impact. Jeff, did you have anything to add on doing a needs analysis and getting started with a program?
Yeah, sure. I think that was absolutely spot on. Start with the people, because that's the business that we're in, before, during, and after. It's about people. Also that it is a business. And part of the needs analysis is, which direction do we go first? A wellness program is a massive, massive monster, as we all know, if you're doing it properly and holistically. And if you don't do the business part of the needs analysis, you might find yourself focused in trying to provide strength training and mobility, but that's not where you're going to get the buy-in from the administrators and those that hold the purse strings. Because if you can't get their buy-in and the union, then you might have the best fitness program in the entire fire service, but chances are it's going to die in that department, because that's not what the business part needed. That would kind of just be my other side of the people business.
That's a really great point, Jeffrey. We like to say what gets measured gets improved. And so having some metrics involved in your needs analysis could definitely help prove the value of your program over time. Even if there's simple metrics to collect, just starting simple, making sure that your program has a metric tied to it can definitely help increase buy-in from leadership and from management as well. So I definitely appreciate you including that point too. Dina, one of the great strides you've made in San Antonio is managing injuries and expediting return to work for your firefighters. Can you address some of the aspects of what you've done there? It's a great metric to work on in fire.
Yes, it is. It's a constant job security, really. What we have set up an entire clinic. So I address any musculoskeletal injuries that our firefighters and EMS personnel have. And I'll be the first one to admit that I'm a spoiled kid, knowing that I'm coming from a large department with starting out with a large budget. We have multiple different modalities to help address any of these issues. As Megan touched on, majority of them are, of course, back, shoulder, knee. And one of the ones that I didn't see coming in is elbow. There's a lot of both medial and lateral epicondylitis. So we started with addressing injuries as they happen. As mentioned earlier, the trust is a huge deal. Winning our firefighters over and them trusting that I'm providing that service to them and not there to take them off the job was a big step for us. Now that our numbers have driven up quite a bit, there's been a need to also start on the preventative side and trying to get in front of injuries now that they trust what I'm doing. So we are working there as well. One of the really big and probably most important aspects is that metric piece. I had to justify my job when I first came in. So we track all of our injury data and have been able to demonstrate cost savings. For the first 4 years of the program's existence, we were at 4.25 million in cost savings. And to the number crunchers to that side, that's a really pretty number to be able to demonstrate. So based on that, we have already expanded into a much bigger clinic with more treatment options available and are looking forward to expanding our staff. Additionally, I work in conjunction with the rest of our wellness personnel. We have a staff psychologist that I work closely with, and we have nurse practitioners in the LVN as well. So we all try to hit, and like we've mentioned, that big, robust wellness goal in mind to try to help in all areas.
Awesome. It's very commendable that you focused your efforts on a target and unified everyone around that. I think that by focusing on injuries and helping everyone get out of pain, it just really delivers a high value on a lot of levels. The firefighters feel better, leadership feels better, the budget feels better, everything starts to feel better. So for those departments listening, that might be a great metric for you to go ahead and start with. On that note, we know that your department is rather large. Do you have any tips on how you could scale that down a little bit for a smaller department?
Absolutely. There are lots of different frameworks to be able to bring in something from the injury prevention or treatment rehab side of things. There are clinical outpatient groups that could provide almost like a part-time or temporary type contract so that it's not a full-time expensive position. Additionally, look for qualifications in that person. Athletic trainers could help provide physicals. So they're not hitting just the musculoskeletal part, but in smaller departments could also provide the annual physicals and working with other individuals like strength and conditioning specialists to provide other different areas as well. There are many, many ways that it can be done, more than one way to skin a cat. So think outside the box. There's grant funding and ways that it can be accomplished. I'd be more than happy to address that.
Absolutely. And we appreciate your support, and for the large departments and the small departments too. There truly is something that everyone can do. It's just a matter of making sure that you listen to the department's needs and start to meet them where they're at, so to speak. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. John Hoffman. So we've identified what needs should look like, what needs should be met with our needs assessment. How does the department pay for this now? How do they sustain it?
I get the fun question, huh? uh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, let's be honest, it's government. There's no money, right? People always want to know, well, how can we pay for this? You know, you're hearing all the experts talk on here, and everybody's got the right direction, and you have to actually show it. But if you want to talk about resources, you know, people will say, hey, let's go for the grant. All right, the Assistance to Firefighter grant. Well, to do that, you actually have to match the funds. So is your department willing to do that? You know, when I was at Sacramento, the fire chief at the time was like, yeah, sure, John, go ahead, go for it. Thinking I wasn't going to get it. And then when I did get it, he was like, oh, shit. And we got $1.2 million. So we had kind of set aside that money just in case. But there are way you're going about it is you actually have to prove that it can work. And you're hearing all those secrets of how to do that. You heard Jim talk about going outside and, you know, working with the community and getting discounts. And I worked with local gyms and building that and getting the buy-in from the firefighters because, hey, they like free shit, right? So, you know, why not make that work? And so that starts to build momentum. And the administrators like that. Let's be honest. Administrators want to look good. They don't want to look like failures. They want to see that this thing works. If I'm going to put money into it or any type of resources, because I had zero budget, they will start to feed you more. But the other opportunities are going to be within the workers' comp side, right? Your risk management side. When they start to see it being beneficial, they will start to back it more. Then all of a sudden, when you do go for that grant, it's like, hey, this is a no-brainer, right? You've proven your worth. You've proven that this program can be something good. As you know, the fire chief said, our health and wellness program was a beacon of hope in our department, even during down times. So that's how much power your wellness program can have. It's something of pride. So the resources are there, but you have to get creative. It's not like, hey, just give me money. Okay, because that's not going to happen. Everything comes, they don't even, you know, buy enough PPE half the time, and yet they say they have a cancer program. So let's really be honest. You have to build it, then you start to look for other resources. Start small. The way I would approach it is not by department size. In fact, I worked for a mid-sized department, 800 firefighters. I went about it as if it was a small department with like 60 people, because it would be easier to manage. And I built it in that manner. Then once it got bigger, it was easy because people started putting resources behind it. So take a small approach. Who cares if you work for a large department? Take a small approach and build resources around you. Invite physical therapists out to your training grounds and expose them to what they do, you know, and start to build your network. And then you start to build that momentum. People always want to go straight to the money. The other side of that is when you do get the money, let's say you want to hire. Well, now you have to really get into the HR side of things. Is it going to be a program analyst job? Is it going to be a program specialist job? Is it going to be a program manager job? What's the job classification according to HR? Make sure you apply it correctly, because otherwise they're going to be underpaid. What are going to be the certifications? Like Deanna said, you know, what kind of credentials are you going to look for, which will help determine what job classification? That job classification is so important because that determines what the pay range will be. Okay. And so these are little things that you have to look for before you start thinking, oh, I'm going to go higher in this. Because I worked for Sacramento for 10 years. I ended up making less than I did on the 10th year than I did on the first year because of the job classification. It took 4 years to get it revamped. So obviously everything moves slow. So doing your due diligence ahead of time will save you a lot of effort.
Really appreciate that, John. That's very well said. And having your hindsight 2020 as foresight 2020 is just absolutely invaluable for everyone here. I totally agree. And in terms of the programs that the NSCA has seen and worked with, those that start small tend to have the greatest long-term success, because if you can create that extremely positive and powerful impact on even small scale, just like John said, even if you have to start with a pilot program and maybe even just get some community funding for it from a Rotary Club or a Chamber of Commerce or community partners, volunteers, starting with that very positive but impactful beginning is key for sure. So let's keep this going. Dina, can you tell us what an expected ROI for a health and wellness program is? And can you elaborate on what your ROI is currently, if you don't mind sharing?
Expectations are difficult because you never want to oversell yourself, and then you come in with something under that and it looks terrible. I know initially our department asked to look at our injury numbers. It said, well, we've got to have a decrease in injuries. Let's look at that. And my immediate response was, no, stay away from that, because half of these you guys didn't know about. Ignorance is bliss type of deal. So it looks grossly inflated. So expectations are difficult. However, within athletic training, there are multiple studies that have been run that prove that programs of this nature can recoup the costs of startup within the first 6 months to a year. When we looked at ours, we were very fortunate. We recouped all of our startup costs within the first quarter. And last time I checked, our ROI was actually at 10 to 1. So we're getting a return of $10 for every dollar spent, which is amazing. And there are many different ways to look at it and try to calculate our ROI. Ours is actually probably small because some of our numbers I have based on lower, like a firefighter median salary, knowing that we treat some of the upper level admin as well. So we are comfortable with the numbers that we provide and don't feel that they're overinflated at all. But it's very important to try to loop in everything that you're doing. If there are phone calls and emails that you answer after hours, for us, if we are preventing someone having to go see a physician and we're handling things in-house, that's a dollar amount. And being able to attach everything to that, as well as grabbing all of the costs associated. We actually don't own our building. So I have to factor in our monthly rental for the space that we're in to be able to justify that ROI piece.
Well, you're certainly well on your way to getting your own building with that level of ROI. That's very impressive. So congratulations for that. That is really, really impressive. I do want to take just a quick break to remind everyone to post their questions in the Q&A box. I know we have a wealth of expertise, and this, for some of us, will be drinking like a fire hose, excuse the analogy, but we do want to make sure that we answer all of your questions as they come in. So please do post them. So let's take it in another direction here into medical testing. John, medical testing is part of NFPA 1582, but it also really critical in keeping our personnel healthy. How does one prioritize what tests are important, and how do you keep it within a reasonable budget?
That's a great question. When I was building the program, the health and the ultimate goal was to get a medical screening program, and that was the ultimate challenge. So during that time, 4 years or 5 years, you're doing your research and your due diligence, and you're trying to figure out all the health aspects. And really what it came down to is everything started with chronic inflammatory markers. Okay. We're not going to look at the firefighter as the guy who works at like the real estate company, right? Because the job changes you. You don't have an option, or you don't have a choice when the tones go off at 911. Yes, lifestyle choices are usually a factor of their health. But you get up every time at midnight. It's like having a newborn child for the next 30 years, right? You just never get any sleep. That's what I tell people. So you really want to start to focus on an inflammation, and that's where we took it. And the inflammatory markers, meaning the C-reactive protein. And then we just built a picture down from there. Then we started obviously with your CBC, and we went with your cholesterol, right? But we actually put a lot of emphasis on inflammatory markers, because when you're looking at depression, when you're looking at increased cortisol, when you're looking at heart disease, everything comes back to inflammation. So that was the one area that we had to start with. And then we started to build it out. Then we wanted to look at hormones. But when you start to go down hormones, you don't want to necessarily start testing everybody for testosterone and stuff. You can do estradiol or other means to monitor what they were at. More importantly, I wanted vitamin D. And I also wanted, vitamin D is a very important one, especially when you're talking about heart disease and other issues. And I wanted to actually see other certain supplements like magnesium, because we started to realize they were magnesium deficient. That's why everybody was chronically stressed and they were chronically tight and fatigued. And so we kind of did it in a different manner. But when we got the grant, everybody went through the cardiac stress test, and we built it backwards to make it affordable. Because if you do win the grant, you have to maintain it. You're not allowed to just get the money after 1 year and then say thank you. You have to show how you're going to maintain it. So what we did was make a comprehensive test, stress test. Everybody went through it. They did the treadmill. And then after that, we based it on our department's needs. We didn't have a lot of 20-year-olds. So I had like 3 or 4 because we had a hiring freeze during that time. So anybody who was 30 to 39 went every 2 years. 50 and over went every year, and 40 to 49 went every 3 years. So I just shifted the numbers based on the NFPA recommendations. Understand the NFPA recommendations, again, recommendations, they are not standards. All right. I get tired of getting chiefs calling me up saying, oh, I got NFPA 1582. Yeah, I got the document too. You can Google up heart disease and medical tests and get the same damn tests, okay? Pick tests that are going to be specific to your fire department's needs and stresses, right? You know, you can't do cortisol because it changes throughout the day, but look at their inflammatory markers. Then we started to identify not only triglycerides, but we wanted to look at non-HDL, right? And other factors for these firefighters. And then we had to empower them. And that was the key. Once we got the medical screenings, it wasn't like, oh yeah, no big deal, I got it. It was, here's a little idiot-proof firefighter proof manual. If you got this test, this is what it means. This is what it means if it's high. This is what it means if it was low. So now they could just open up this little book and go, oh, that's what that is. And now they were curious. So they would seek out help and they would come to see me. But everything for us started with inflammation. Then we also applied what was the Alere bladder kit, and it's a specific bladder cancer screening for firefighters developed in San Francisco. And it was very affordable, and it was absolutely perfect for identifying bladder cancers in the fire service. And that was called the Alere bladder kit. And so when this started going, all of a sudden risk management saw that everybody was doing it. We had a 98% participation on a voluntary program, and they said, what else can we do? What else can we add? We didn't need stress tests all the time. It's not, you get a lot of false positives. So we tailored it back to 50 and over, I told you, as every year. And then we kind of just made it blood work. It went strictly after the first year blood work. But the full comprehensive exam then became the entry level exam. So every recruit had to come in and do it all every single time. So at least we had a baseline to know, 20 years from now, where do we start?
Perfect. That gives us a lot of material to work with, a lot of options. It sounds like you want to start with everything that you can that matches the department's needs. As long as it matches the department's needs and is targeted, it's probably a good idea. But that's a great point to make, that not every assessment is necessary in the beginning. You could start with what the department needs and always build from there. But if you assess people too much and you don't give them an opportunity to improve their assessment score, or if you just overwhelm them, then that's probably not going to give you this positive a result as if you really just kind of focus on a few there. So really appreciate that advice there, John. Annette, what is one high priority item that is often overlooked?
Well, first of all, I have to tip my hat. My colleague and friend, actually from my department, is on the webinar tonight. So I want to give a shout out to Luke Peterson. And this idea actually came from him. He directs the program at my department, and I was actually adamantly against this in the beginning. But his idea was to do an analysis and figure out what time of day are we the least busy. And so everyone was always trying to work out at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was sort of like catch as catch can. Sometimes we'd get to do it, sometimes we wouldn't, or we'd be tired or drills or whatever. So Luke dug into the firehouse data and he found out that we were the least busy, and I'm probably going to misquote this, but it was like 3:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. or something like that. And so he said, bingo, here's what I want to do. I want to go to the administration and I want to get dedicated workout time in the morning right away. And I said, Luke, this is a terrible idea. I hate it. Okay. I don't like it at all. But it was very, very, once he was talking through it, it was very compelling and it was a great idea. And so here's what we do. We come in, and the firefighters in the audience right now, their jaws are going to drop. We come in the morning dressed in our workout clothes. Yes, our workout clothes. And then we do our rig checks on anything that's critical, we get it done. But by 7:30, we are foam rolling, warming up, and getting our training done for the day. There's no drills scheduled during that time. There's no meetings scheduled during that time. Of course, we have to go on emergency calls, but I already told you that's the least busy time of the day. And so I would say maybe 90% of the time, we actually get our physical training done. It was a hard sell to the administration initially, like who's going to clean the toilets and what if the bulb doesn't get changed on the rig or whatever. But truly, that stuff will get done later. What won't get done later is our training when we're tired. So what I tell everyone is, unless you're giving them dedicated time for training and you're making sure that you don't go, oh, well, just this one time we can schedule a Girl Scout tour, or just this one time we can schedule an outside speaker. As long as you're always having that dedicated time for training, it works like magic. So that's what I tell every single department. You have to carve out time.
So excited that you're sharing that wonderful wisdom with us, Annette. And yes, that was worthy of a mic drop that you just did. It's just consistency is everything. We know that one workout is good, but consistent workouts is really what starts to build the long-term benefits. So that is just a wonderful model that you suggested for us there. Matt, you're a former D1 strength coach. How do you use what you learned at the collegiate level and carry that over to the fire department? Technically, the fire department is just another type of team, so I'd assume that many aspects were helpful, but obviously there are a lot of differences in terms of lifestyle of that team and demands and responsibility levels. So could you tell us a little bit more about that? Sure.
I would agree that there's a lot of the team aspect in the fire service, and rightfully there should be. And coming from Division I collegiate sports, or even just outside of the fire service, working in some professional capacity with teams, you can bring a lot of things to the table from the outside coming in that are very, very valuable. First of all, we've spoke before, it's hard to be a prophet in your own home. So when you train a member of your department that's already there and established personally with people, it's hard to establish a now professional relationship on a different level, especially something that gets pushed back sometimes, like physical fitness training, physical fitness testing. So coming from the outside, coming in as already a subject matter expert, so to speak, you have credibility that's hard to get from the inside and try to put it out. Coming from collegiate sports and team sports, the skills you get working with people very much transfers over. When I was the head strength coach at NIU, the relationships that we tried to foster with the head coaches was very important, because if they believed in what you were doing and had buy-in along with their assistant coaches, that did nothing but help you. First of all, it really doesn't help us in the fire service on the end product of the actual job we're trying to do with the membership. But if the chief, the deputy chiefs, the battalion chiefs, all the administration, if they believe in what you're doing and what you're trying to provide, again, that just takes a lot of obstacles out of the way. A lot of the obstacles are just trying to get to the point to where you can work with the membership. So when they have buy-in and they support you, I'm very fortunate. I'm at a department where we're literally fighting for space in the weight room with the chiefs some days, because everybody is down there at headquarters working out. I've had to arrange workouts around them doing their workouts, which I'll take that problem any day of the week. we have a lot of support from our administration. But having that buy-in from the top down definitely helps when you're trying to actually do the job that you were put there to do. The same kind of personalities that you encounter in the team environment in college sports, you're going to encounter the same ones here. People that are already bought in, they're already training. Those are your assets. Then you get the people that are, why am I doing this? Why do we have to do this? What does this do? Being practiced and having those discussions very, very linearly, being able to get to the point and tell them why in a non-confrontational way really helps you build a lot of bridges and chop down a lot of the excuses why that's not going to happen. The programming itself isn't going to be as complex. In college sports, we broke them down freshmen through senior levels, varsity walk-ons, what have you. The workouts now, for the most part, I think most will agree, they're glorified dynamic warm-ups and cool downs, working on mobility and movement that we don't do efficiently, trying to get people just to move correctly, hinge correctly, carry loads correctly. And that's sandwiched in between a bunch of corrective exercises. And instruction of just how to work out correctly after you teach them how to move correctly. So you definitely moved down the scale as far as the complexity of the workouts. Anybody that wants advanced programs, two options. They either don't need them, they're not ready for them, and they think they do, and you just tell them why. Or the people that are already actively training and are athletic, in shape, and are very conscious of what they're doing, they don't necessarily need help, they want advice. And again, that's another problem I enjoy having. That would be a good problem. If you had everybody asking you for advice to help with their program that's already established and in practice, that would be much easier. Another one would be knowing the exercise progressions and the variations. In college sports, depending on where your program is, you may have to be very talented in making something out of nothing. I'm not going to be the first one to say I've had a head coach that we had the workout plan for 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the weight room. Now it's changed to 6 p.m. on the basketball court just because. So you go from having your script flipped and having knowledge of workouts, exercise combinations, variations to where you can make these calls on the fly is a great benefit. And if it's a department you're working with where they have low funding, no equipment, some equipment, having that knowledge to be able to piecemeal these workouts together, keep them simple, be able to explain it is a huge asset. Evaluations. If somebody's trained within their department to do fitness evaluations, you're not going to get a lot of repetitions. You're going to test whatever employees are involved once or twice a year, maybe more if they're really involved in the program. Being a collegiate coach or coming from outside the fire service from a professional setting, I know personally, being a head strength coach, you're in charge of the football team. So there you're already doing over 100 assessments 3 to 4 times a year, throwing pro day and all that fun stuff. But if you have a D1 athletic program, we had just shy of 500 athletes. So if you're helping out with more than one team, you're getting a repetition of doing all the evaluation tests that now you can bring to the fire department and do them with a lot of efficiency and a lot of accuracy. Some of the questions you're going to get is, what does this test mean? Are you doing it right? Was my score bad because you just don't know how to do it? Or am I really that bad? So having that confidence, being able to say, I've done this test thousands of times and I can replicate your score over and over and over again, that has a lot of weight with people. And I'd probably say in addition to that, probably just being able to get people that are already bought into the program, get them helping you in whatever capacity you can. The more you can give people ownership in a new program and have them help you move it forward, that again, first of all, it's a fight just to not get things working against you. And then to have them neutral is good. You've got a shot. Now, if you have more people in the membership, not only talking good about the program, but actively trying to help you, that's a huge asset, and that can just keep things rolling.
Really well said. And I think that one thing that you hit on that was just especially resonated was that you create an environment that invites that is non-judgmental for those who are in pain and need help with maybe more beginner level progressions of exercise, but you also are able to give advice to those who have a higher fitness level and really just help bring everyone together for the greater mission of being fit, being healthy, and giving them opportunities to lead, I think is just so important. And it's definitely become a best practice that I've noticed in the industry as well. So kudos for doing that in the industry. That is a great segue to our next question. Jeff, could you tell us some best practices for setting up your program to use peer trainers most effectively? We understand that you can have a centralized command and also decentralized command with force multipliers, by giving some of the firefighters or some of the members of the department training and things like that. But could you tell us what your best practices are?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. First of all, I'd like to say that the nice thing about going right now is I kind of just have to say the same things that everybody else has said because it's a very common theme. Things come up over and over again, and the things that I'll say are choosing the right people, all that kind of stuff. I think what's really important when you talk about peer trainers, regardless of the source of the education, is understanding that they really, really are a force multiplier. In my particular case in Austin, we're right now looking at 50 stations, and that doesn't include staff jobs or anything else. And some of these are multi-company, and we're growing towards 53. I have a huge wellness program that includes 4 fitness professionals. Well, that's still not getting me to 50 stations. But if I can truly use that force multiplier, it's a ready-made workforce, and they want to do it. They're invested in so many ways. So immediately I can start to increase my coach to athlete ratio from a fitness perspective, right? Then the other thing that happens is I'm a civilian. I wouldn't go to, say, the UK and just start thinking I can roll into a gym or a football club and start coaching, because I don't know what the heck is going on there. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what they're doing or what they're eating. I don't know what's going on. It was the same thing when I showed up at the fire department. I didn't know all of those things. And so by having those PFTs or TSAC-F or our peer trainers, it was somebody that immediately could help me learn how to do what I'm supposed to do with that population. They gave me a little bit of buy-in, right? Because they said, oh, he's cool or she's cool. And I didn't know how important that was until later on, but now I get it. And like I said, more importantly, they translated so many things for me in both directions. So hopefully when you build that and you grow that force multiplier, what you'll get to is the opportunity to then take it to cross training, where they can help me understand what they do, and they can translate the messages that I'm trying to communicate in their language much better than I can. So we now have a common language of fitness that we can work through, and really makes a big difference. As far as building the program itself, it's like everything else. You've really got to be clear about what you expect from your PFTs or your peer trainers, because sometimes I think what happens is, especially in smaller departments, oh, well, we've got some PFTs, so now we have a wellness program. Yes, you may, but understand, are they there to create and lead workouts, or are they there to create and manage a return to work process? Because my goodness, those are very big different things. It's important to understand that it's a quantifiable mission, right? We've talked about collect the metrics and all of these types of things, because whether or not it's a volunteer force or you're paying them, it still costs dollars to certify them and to train them. So you need to get that money back, and you need to show how you're getting that money back. So their mission, as you're writing that, it has to be quantifiable. It can't be, hey, let's go make our department better. Let's make them more fit, right? We need to know, do you need to increase VO2 max? Do you need to reduce injury costs? What are you looking for from this group of people? If you give them that, look, they're firefighters. They know how to accomplish a mission. That's one of the best things about the tenacity is, I don't know, all around the world, but in Austin, when the dispatch doesn't know where to send it, they send it to fire, because fire will figure it out. And so if you give them the proper mission, give them the proper tools, they'll get it done. And the other thing that we've said a million times, choose the right people. Just because somebody is the workout champ of the department doesn't mean they're a great peer trainer. How well are they going to connect, even speaking the right language, to my 62-year-old getting ready to retire but still has to do his assessment? Or, you know, like Jake had mentioned, you know, we've got mothers coming back to work really, really early. Am I going to send this workout champ PFT to go work with this mother? Maybe, but can I do better? Probably. One of the ways that you can do that is have an apprenticeship program, right? You have this workforce that's not going anywhere. You don't have to rush through it. So if somebody really is committed to the true mission of this organization or these peer trainers, let them show it. Let them show what it's worth to them, so that you know that you're going to get, like we talked about before, a return on your investment. The last thing on it really is just organization and structure. Again, for me, retired military, I like structure, I like rank, I like organization. I think it works really well. The fire department's pretty good at that. So it should hold true through the civilian sections as well. And so when you look at having this peer trainer group, we all know that somebody has to be in charge. And even if they're not in charge, it's at least a point of contact and somebody for accountability. Everything has to be accountable to something else. So do the people. The last thing that's really important that you have to understand, and there's pluses and minuses to all the sides of it, is one, are you going to pay them? And two, if you are, how are you going to pay them? Is it just regular time? Well, that means you have to reduce their shift someplace else. Is it overtime? Well, gosh, that can add up pretty quickly, right? But if you don't pay them, sometimes you get what you pay for, or you don't. So real top, 20,000 feet, I feel like those are a couple things that can really kind of help a program, regardless of where it's at, getting started, or who's there, civilian uniform, go forward and be successful.
Well said, Jeff. Really made some strong points there. And I know that a lot of us are just taking tons of notes on all of these different responses and tips. This is just such an enriching session. One of the things that you said was to choose the right people. And I think that that's really important. And it can also be really hard to do. So one of the ways that you can do that, though, is just by starting with sharing education in this industry and in tactical strength and conditioning, and see who responds to it. You can share, we have a TSACF report, of course, through the NSCA that you can share, but you could also host a course on site and see who signs up and who does well with that course. And if they do well with that course, then maybe get them certified through your choice of certification agency, of course. I'm a little biased, but with NSCA, TSACF, but to be expected. I walk the talk and I believe in what I do. But those just can be some helpful steps for really identifying who really enjoys the field the most and who will resonate with the mission the most. So really appreciate your tips on that. I am just about done with all of our questions as a moderator for the session tonight, but I couldn't finish up without thanking all of you for attending and also thanking all of our absolutely amazing panelists. Y'all are experts, you're leaders in the field, you're inspiring all of us tonight. And Miss Annette Zapp, thank you so much for all of the dedication and passion that you put into the field and also to helping put all of this together. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Annette.
Thanks, Mandy. And if you have final questions, please put them in the QA right now so that we can get them answered before we tie up. But I did want to give a little shout out to two really special people that neither of them could be here tonight. First of all, Casey Stoneberger works for Denver Fire. He had a family emergency. Absolutely amazing physical therapist. So we really missed out on his knowledge, but hopefully we'll get him another time. And then my friend Chris Morello was supposed to be here tonight, but he and his wife Katie had a baby last night. Super exciting. And so I know, so exciting. But I did want to pass on a couple of best practices from Chris because he does have a really lot of good insight. The first one was he really feels strongly that your peer fitness trainer should be paid. And so it's really hard to make being a peer fitness trainer or a TSAC facilitator a priority when it's a volunteer position or a voluntold position, or it's something you just have to do on duty. And so he feels really strongly if you pay your peer fitness trainers or your TSAC facilitators, you'll get a lot better quality and a lot better success for everybody involved. The other thing that he thought was really important is instead of just putting things on the drill schedule, like here, watch this drill about foam rolling, or here, watch this drill. We had Megan shoot a video, just watch this drill. Instead of doing that, he said, prioritize having those people come in off duty to do it, or bring in actually Megan physically, or have her do the webinar, so that each shift would be accountable for attending that, rather than just making it a checkbox that you would check off. And then finally, I wanted to add one thing, because everyone has a common question, which is, yeah, but you're San Antonio. Yeah, but you're Austin or Denver or South Metro. Like, you're a big department. I'm a really small department. And some of the other panelists gave some really good ways of scaling that. But I know that there's a lot of people in Illinois listening to this webinar. And so what I always suggest is, we have in Illinois what's called the mutual aid box alarm system, which is basically intergovernmental agreements where if we outstrip our resources for an emergency, our neighboring towns are automatically going to come and help us out. We don't have to call them up and say, "Ooh, can you please come help me?" Like, they're coming. And so my suggestion is to try to work together with your neighboring agencies or your MABUS divisions or a couple other departments and maybe share resources. Dina suggested that. It was a great suggestion, but share resources. But I do see a couple of QAs hopped up. Did anybody already answer that? It looks like they all got answered. And so what's going to happen now is once the webinar is over, it's going to get processed, and then I will do a tiny bit of editing. And then if you signed up for the webinar, you're going to get a link, an early link, so that you can rewatch it. And everyone else is just going to have to wait like about 6 weeks before we get around to sharing it publicly. So unless any of the other panelists have anything to add, I just wanted to thank you all. I consider you friends and colleagues, and I appreciate you, and everyone have a great night unless someone has something else.
Just to add, Annette, we will send out a quick survey as well. It's going to be a 2-second quick thing. We just want to get your feedback and see if you would be interested in any future webinars like this down the line.
So that'll be sent out with your email that will have your link to the super secret recording. All right, I think, Mandy, thank you so much. I appreciate you moderating, and everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.